A cold, lonely night. The wind was cruel that night. It howled through the broken buildings of the old colony slums. Trash flew in every direction. Rusted metal creaked. And in the middle of it all, a small alien girl walked barefoot in the snow. Her skin was pale blue. Her eyes, too big for her small face, were tired and sad. Her clothes were torn, barely covering her skinny body. Every few steps she stopped and rubbed her arms, trying to warm herself. But the cold bit deeper each minute. No one looked at her. Shops were closing. Lights shut off. Some aliens laughed in warm taverns, drinking and forgetting their own pain. But none of them opened the door for her. To them she was nothing, a beggar, a leftover. She walked to the trash piles behind a building. Her tiny fingers searched through old clothes, hoping to find rags. Just something, anything, to cover her legs. She found a ripped scarf. It smelled bad, but she didn't care. She wrapped it around her shoulders. Suddenly, her knees gave up. She fell to the ground, too weak, too cold. She curled beside the trash pile, hugging her knees. Her lips trembled. "I don't want to die," she whispered. "Not like this." Her eyes began to close. The snow kept falling. No one came. Until a shadow appeared in the snow. Heavy boots stopped beside her. A man's voice said gently, "Are you alive?" The girl flinched. She opened her eyes slowly. Through the blur, she saw a tall human man. He had a beard, tired brown eyes, and a thick coat. He looked like a scavenger, but his voice wasn't cruel. She tried to crawl away. "Please, don't eat me," she whispered. The man blinked. "Eat you?" he said, surprised. No, kid. I'm not here to hurt you." He knelt down, pulled a thick blanket from his bag, and wrapped it around her. Warmth. Real warmth. Her body shivered more as the cold started to leave. Tears ran down her cheeks. She didn't even know why. The man lifted her gently into his arms. "Let me take you somewhere safe," he said softly. The girl didn't answer. She didn't fight. She just held the blanket tight and let the stranger carry her into the storm. The cabin was deep in the woods, away from the slums. Old, but strong. The fire was already burning when the man opened the door and stepped inside with her. He placed her on a soft couch near the fire. Steam rose from her wet clothes. "I'll bring food," he said. She looked around with wide eyes. There were no cages, no chains, just tools, books, and an old photo of a woman and a child. The cabin felt peaceful. The man returned with a hot bowl. It smelled like soup. She stared at it. "What's that?" "Something warm. Eat slowly," he replied, handing her a spoon. Her fingers were shaking, but she ate. Each spoonful burned a little. Her stomach hadn't had real food in days, but she didn't stop. "Who are you?" she finally asked. The man smiled. "Just a mechanic. Name's Thomas." She didn't give her name. She wasn't even sure she had one anymore. After she finished eating, he handed her new clothes, clean, soft, and warm. She changed in the back room and came out wrapped in them, looking like a new person. Thomas looked up from his workbench. "Better?" She nodded slowly. "Why are you helping me?" He paused, then said, "Because no one else did." She didn't understand it. Her people always said humans were dangerous, flesh eaters, that they took what they wanted and crushed everything else. But this one had done nothing but help her. She sat quietly by the fire, unsure what to believe anymore. Tomas sat nearby and sipped tea. He didn't ask questions. He didn't press. He just let her be. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, for the first time in years, the girl felt something she thought she had lost. Hope. The storm outside grew louder, but inside the small wooden cabin, there was peace. The fire crackled softly. Shadows danced on the wooden walls, and the soft hum of a heating unit filled the silence. The alien girl sat on a thick wool blanket near the fireplace, her hands wrapped around a warm metal mug filled with sweet root tea. She had never tasted anything like it before. It was strange, but comforting. It reminded her of something, long forgotten: safety. Thomas, the human man who had saved her from the freezing slums, moved quietly in the background. He didn't ask many questions. He didn't demand anything from her. He simply cleaned his tools, checked his equipment, and occasionally glanced at her to make sure she was still all right. The girl found this strange. No one ever looked at her without wanting something. Back in the city, people only saw her as a burden, or worse, something to use. She watched him now, curious but cautious. His hands were rough, but his movements were careful. He worked on a broken scanner, eyes focused and calm. He didn't act like a monster. Her people had always told her that humans were savage, greedy, and violent. They said humans had come from a dying world, taking whatever they could from others. They were called flesh eaters in her language, whispers passed down to children, like warnings. But this man, he hadn't eaten her. He hadn't even shouted at her. He'd given her clothes, a place to sit, and warmth. Still, fear clung to her heart like frost on skin. After a while, Thomas broke the silence. "You don't talk much," he said without looking up. "That's okay, I was quiet too when I was young." The girl didn't know how to respond. She clutched the mug tighter and looked into the fire. He continued, his voice soft. "My daughter would have been your age now. She was smart, brave too. Got sick back on Mars base. Never made it to Earth too." His voice went quiet. The girl slowly turned to look at him. He didn't seem angry, just tired. "Is that her?" she asked quietly, pointing to the old photo hanging on the wall. Thomas nodded. "Yeah, that was before everything went wrong." There was a long silence between them, a silence filled with shared loss. "What's your name?" he finally asked. She lowered her eyes. I don't have one." He frowned. "No name?" "My people called me useless, broken. They said I was born wrong." Thomas looked at her for a long moment. Then he said firmly, "Well, that ends now. You're not broken. You're not useless. You survived." Her chest tightened. Those words felt like a blanket all on their own. "I think I should call you something," Thomas said with a small smile. "You okay with that?" She hesitated, then gave a tiny nod. "How about—" He thought for a moment. "Lyra. That was a star my daughter loved." "Lyra," she repeated, the word feeling strange on her tongue, but she didn't hate it. Suddenly, a sharp beeping echoed from Tomas's old scanner. He rushed over and checked the small monitor. His face grew tense. Lyra stood up quickly, afraid. "What is it?" she asked. Thomas didn't answer right away. He pressed a few buttons, eyes scanning the data. Then he exhaled. "Patrol ship," he said. "Low orbit. Syndicate ID." Her legs went weak. "They're looking for me," she whispered. Thomas looked at her. "Why? What did you do?" "I didn't do anything," she said, panic rising. "They just want me gone. I'm different. I was born with a mark. They said it made me cursed." He stepped closer. "Mark?" Reluctantly, Lyra turned her back and pulled down the collar of her shirt. A soft blue glow shimmered across her upper back, a symbol like a circle made of stars. Thomas leaned closer. His eyes narrowed. "I've seen this before," he murmured. "This isn't a curse. This is old tech, royal tech. This symbol used to belong to the Eliari Empire." "I don't know what that is," she whispered. Tomas moved quickly now. He turned off all outside signals and grabbed his old jammer device. "We can't stay here long. They'll scan the heat signature. If they find you, they'll come fast." Lyra felt her heart beat faster. She had barely begun to feel safe, and now the danger returned. "You should leave me," she said, her voice cracking. "If they find me here, they'll hurt you, but—" Thomas just gave her a hard look. "I didn't pull you out of the snow just to throw you back in." She stared at him. No one had ever said something like that to her before. Outside, the storm still raged. Inside, Thomas began preparing supplies, and For the first time, Lyra realized this human was not a monster. He might be her only chance at living. Thomas barely slept that night. He sat in the dark corner of the cabin watching the scanner flicker. The snowstorm outside hid their heat signature, for now. But he knew the syndicate wouldn't give up easily. They never did. He had crossed paths with them once years ago. He remembered how they hunted those they called defective or unwanted. Back then he could do nothing. But now, maybe he could. Across the room, Lyra lay curled on the couch under 3 blankets. Her breathing was soft. Her small fingers clutched a pillow, and every now and then she made a quiet sound, like a whimper from an old memory. Thomas rubbed his eyes and stood slowly. He walked over and sat beside her. Carefully, he adjusted the blanket on her shoulders. That's when he saw it again. The mark. Even through the fabric, a soft glow pulsed on her upper back. Faint, but real. He leaned closer. The shape was clear now. A glowing circle made of star-like points surrounded by ancient symbols he didn't recognize. It looked like it had been part of her skin since birth, etched, not tattooed, not added, but born with. He turned on his old datapad and searched his archives. Deep in a dusty file from a mission log long forgotten, he found it. The same symbol. Eliari crest, royal lineage, priority genetic tag, level Omega. Thomas leaned back, stunned. Eliari, they weren't just any race. They were once the rulers of 6 star systems, known for their psychic gifts and advanced bioengineering. Their royal bloodlines had been destroyed 100 years ago when the syndicate took over, or so history claimed. But this girl, this small, frightened child in his cabin, was proof that one heir had survived. Lyra stirred. He quickly turned off the datapad, but she had already opened her eyes. "What are you doing?" she asked sleepily. Thomas gave a soft smile. "Sorry. I was just checking the fire." She sat up, still half asleep. "Is it morning?" He nodded. "Almost." She looked around, then noticed his serious face. "What's wrong?" "Lyra." He hesitated. "That mark on your back. Do you know what it means?" She frowned and touched her shoulder. "No. I was born with it. The elders told my mother I was cursed. They said I'd bring death to the village." He shook his head. "They were wrong." She looked at him, confused. "You're not cursed," he said slowly. "You're Eliari. Royal, blood." Her eyes widened. "That's not possible. My people are scavengers. My mother worked in a mine." "Maybe, but someone in your family, long ago, came from the royal line. That mark proves it." Lyra stood up, nervous now. "So what happens now? Are you going to sell me?" Thomas blinked, shocked. "What? No. That's what others did when they found someone like me," she said quietly. "They called us valuable freaks. The syndicate takes us, experiments on us." His jaw tightened. "Not while I'm here." She stared at him. "But why?" "I'm no one. I can't offer you anything." "You don't have to," he replied. "I help because you deserve a chance, same as anyone." Her lips trembled. No one had ever said she deserved anything before. She sat down slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know who I am. I don't even know why I lived while others didn't." Tomas looked at her with steady eyes. "You lived because you were meant to. And maybe, just maybe, someone like you is exactly what this broken galaxy needs." She looked into the fire, deep in thought. For the first time, she didn't feel like a mistake. She felt like maybe she was meant to be something more. Suddenly, the old scanner beeped again. Thomas moved fast. He checked the screen and swore under his breath. "They're scanning the woods now. Too close." Lyra's heart jumped. "They found us?" "Not yet," he said, "but they're getting warmer. What do? We run." She nodded. "I won't slow you down." He looked at her. "We run together." They packed quickly. Thomas grabbed emergency rations, a portable heater, and his handheld weapon. Lyra helped without complaining. She didn't ask where they were going. She only knew she had to stay with him. He was the first person who didn't look at her like a curse. As they stepped outside into the cold wind, Lyra looked back at the cabin, small, quiet, and warm. For one night, it had felt like home. But home wasn't walls. Home was someone who stayed. And Thomas was still here. She followed him into the forest as the snow began to fall again. This time, she didn't feel alone. The forest was silent. Too silent. Thomas and Lyra moved between frozen trees, careful not to step on branches or crack the ice underfoot. Each breath became a cloud in the cold air. Thomas led the way, scanning ahead, while Lyra followed closely behind. She wore a thick coat now too big for her but warm. Her face was pale, not from fear but from remembering. "They'll never stop," she whispered. Thomas glanced back. Let them try. They had left the cabin an hour ago, just before the scanners picked up heat signatures in the area. Now, they were heading to the old mining tunnels beneath the cliffs, places the syndicate wouldn't think to check right away, places Thomas had used long ago to escape trouble of his own. Every few minutes, a low hum echoed through the sky. Patrol, drones. Lyra shrank each time the sound passed. Her eyes searched the sky through the trees, expecting metal wings and flashing lights. Tomas noticed. "You okay?" She nodded quickly. "Yes. I remember the last time they found me." He stopped. "What happened?" She hesitated, then said, "They took others from our camp. The ones with strange marks, they lined us up, scanned us, the ones with low readings. They vanished." Tomas frowned. "And you?" "My mother hid me. She told them I died from the cold." They believed her. But later, someone betrayed us. She looked away. "They came in the night, took her, burned our shelter. I was under the floorboards. I stayed silent as she screamed." Thomas didn't speak. He knew what syndicate punishments looked like, what they sounded like. And he hated them more than ever now. He reached out, placing a firm hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone anymore." They kept walking, pushing through snowdrifts and tangled roots until they reached the old cliffside. Hidden behind fallen trees was a small rusted door, barely noticeable. Thomas knelt and cleared the snow around it, entered a code on a faded keypad, and pulled the door open with effort. A gust of warm, stale air escaped from the dark tunnel inside. "Down here," he said. Lyra followed, stepping into the shadows. Inside, the walls were lined with cracked lights and old mining tracks. The tunnel stretched far beneath the forest. Thomas lit a small lantern and led her deeper inside. Their footsteps echoed, but at least the wind was gone. And the sky drones couldn't see underground. "Will they find this place?" she asked. "Not easily," he replied. "These mines were sealed off 30 years ago after a collapse. No one comes down here anymore." Lyra paused near a wall, running her fingers across strange carvings in the stone. "What are these?" "Old markings. The miners believed something sacred lived deep in the rocks. They never dug past this point." Lyra touched one symbol, a circle with lines like wings. It glowed faintly under her touch. Thomas blinked. "You did that?" "I don't know how," she said, pulling her hand back. Before he could answer, a sudden rumble came from above. Faint, but sharp, dust fell from the ceiling. Thomas turned, eyes alert. That wasn't thunder. "They're here," Lyra said quietly. He grabbed her hand. "Come, there's a deeper tunnel. We can seal it behind us." They moved quickly through the darkness, passing collapsed beams and shattered mining carts. The air grew colder again. They reached a deeper chamber, one Thomas had used as shelter long ago. He sealed the door behind them, using an old control panel. Thick metal slid shut. Only then, did he allow himself to breathe? Lyra sat against the wall, hugging her knees. "I don't understand. Why do they want me? I'm not strong, I'm not smart, I'm just me." Thomas crouched beside her, That's exactly why. You're not just you. You're proof that the syndicate failed. They tried to erase your kind, and yet, here you are. She looked at him, tears forming. But I don't want to be hunted. I don't want to be special. He smiled softly. You don't have to be anything but alive. A soft beep broke the silence. Thomas checked his communicator. It showed heat readings above their location, search parties. We'll stay down, here tonight, he said. They won't find this room unless they have old maps. Lyra nodded, tired now. She leaned against him slightly. He didn't move away. For a long moment, they sat like that, in the dark, in silence, two broken souls hiding from a world that didn't want them, and yet, they were still here, still breathing, still surviving. And outside, no matter how loud the syndicate stormed through the forest, they couldn't reach them here. Not yet. Darkness pressed in around them, but the air was still, safe. Thomas had switched off the last of the lights, letting the warmth of a tiny emergency lamp give them comfort. The soft yellow glow reflected in Lyra's wide eyes as she sat curled, up beside a wall of smooth stone, her knees to her chest. Her breathing had calmed, but her thoughts were not quiet. Not inside. Tomas sat nearby, sharpening a small blade from his old survival kit. He didn't speak, sensing she needed silence. But silence did not bring peace to her. That night, Lyra's sleep broke into pieces. One moment she rested, the next. She gasped, her body jerked and twisted, her fingers gripping the blanket tightly. Sweat rolled down her brow even in the cold. Her eyes darted beneath her lids, and then she let out a sound, a sharp, choked cry. Thomas moved fast, reaching her side. Lyra, wake up, you're dreaming. Her eyes snapped open, glowing faintly with that eerie blue light from before. Her breath came in quick, panicked bursts. She stared ahead, but not at him. I saw it, she whispered. Thomas frowned. What? Did you see? She clutched her head. Fire, screaming, soldiers. My mother's voice yelling my name. Then, nothing. Just burning. Thomas gently took her hand. It's a memory. A real one. I don't remember any of it when I'm awake, she said. But in dreams, it comes like thunder. Your memories might have been blocked, hidden to protect you. She looked at him. By who? I don't know, Thomas said honestly. Maybe your mother. Maybe someone else who cared about you enough to bury the pain. Lyra sat up slowly, brushing hair from her face. Her hands still trembled. She gave her life to hide me. I was under the floor. She screamed so they'd never hear me cry. Thomas didn't ask for more. He just sat with her. I think she knew, Lyra said after a long pause. About the mark, about what I was. But she never told me. She just said to stay quiet, to survive. That one day I'd understand. Thomas nodded. Maybe that day is here. She gave him a tired look. But I'm not a fighter. I'm not like those human soldiers in stories. I can't lift weapons or lead people. You don't have to fight like them, Thomas replied. Survival is a kind of strength, too. She looked down. Then why does it feel like weakness? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his bag and pulled out a small, square device. I want to show you something. He tapped the screen and a small hologram opened. Grainy, old, but clear enough. It showed a group of people huddled together inside a war-torn shelter. Among them, a girl cried. A soldier placed a jacket over her shoulders. That soldier was Thomas. This was 20 years ago, he said. The girl in that video had just lost her brother. I didn't know her. I just gave her warmth. Like I gave you. But she grew up and became a medic. Helped save hundreds of lives. Lyra stared at the image. You don't know what you'll become, he said. But that doesn't mean you're nothing now. Her throat tightened. You keep giving me reasons to believe. When no one ever has. Thomas smiled gently. Then maybe that's my purpose. Suddenly, a soft vibration pulsed through the stone. Faint, but enough for Thomas to freeze. He stood quickly, turning off the hologram and switching the lantern to red light mode. "They're above," he said in a low voice. Lyra stood, alert now. "Did they find us?" "Not yet. But they're close. Maybe 20 meters up." They moved silently to a corner. Thomas checked a hidden escape shaft, narrow, steep, but it led to the canyon edge far from their last location. He helped Lyra climb in first, then followed. The shaft was dark, the air colder here. Dust fell with every movement. Each step upward felt like climbing through memories, fear, pain, survival. Halfway through, Lyra paused. "Thomas, what if I'm the last?" He looked up at her. "The last of what?" "My kind, the Eliari. What if I'm truly the only one left?" Tomas placed a hand on her back. "Then we keep you alive, and we don't let their story end in silence." She swallowed the lump in her throat and kept climbing. When they finally reached the top, they emerged under a dead tree near the canyon's frozen edge. The sky was clearing now. The stars peeked through the fading clouds. Lyra stared at them. So many, so endless. Somewhere out there, maybe others like her had lived. Maybe they were gone. But she was still here. Still breathing. Still rising from the fire of her past. Thomas placed his coat over her shoulders once more. She didn't flinch, and for the first time she whispered something soft. "Thank you for not letting me burn alone." Morning came slowly. The sun peeked over the icy cliffs, turning the sky into soft gold. Lyra stood at the edge, wind brushing her hair, the blanket still wrapped around her. Thomas sat nearby, quietly checking a small scanning device. Neither spoke much. The night had been long and their escape had been close, but they had survived. Again. Lyra kept looking at the stars fading in the brightening sky. Somewhere deep inside, she felt something calling. Not a voice, not a word, just a strange pull like gravity in her chest. Thomas finally stood and walked over. "We need answers," he said. "No more guessing." She turned to him. "How?" He showed her a round metal object from his bag. "This is an old field DNA reader, top-level military tech. It was banned after the Syndicate took over, but I've kept it hidden for years." Lyra eyed it. "What will it tell us?" "Everything about who you are," he said. "If the mark is truly Eliari Royal, this will prove it." She hesitated. Her heart thudded. Part of her didn't want to know. What if it said she was nothing? What if the glowing mark was just a cruel accident? But Thomas gave her a look that wasn't filled with fear. It was steady, warm. She nodded. He placed the scanner gently on her wrist. A soft hum began, followed by a glowing light that moved up her arm. The device blinked, then beeped twice. Thomas tapped the screen. His eyes widened. Lyra waited, her body tense. "What does it say?" He turned the screen toward her. Simple words glowed on the display. Species, Eliari Prime. Status, Royal Genetic Strain. Tag, Line 7. Lost Heir, Class Omega Order. Target for termination by Syndicate Authority, the world. Felt silent. Lyra read the lines again and again, but the words didn't change. I'm really one of them." Thomas nodded slowly. "Yes. You're not just Eliari. You're from the main bloodline, the last heir of the 7th Royal House. That's why they're hunting you. If you survive, you're a threat to their control." Lyra sat down, breathing fast. "I thought I was trash. A mistake." He sat beside her. "No. You're the last piece of something they wanted destroyed." She looked down at her hands as if seeing them for the first time. "What am I supposed to do with this truth?" "You live," Thomas said. "You keep running if you have to. But someday, you fight. Not with weapons, maybe not even with words, but just by being alive, you're already breaking their system." A tear slipped down her cheek. "What if I'm not strong enough?" "You don't have to be yet," he said softly. But you will be. You've already survived more than most warriors I've known. She leaned against him quietly, the wind rushing past them both. She didn't feel small anymore. She felt like a spark that refused to go out. Then a sound came, a soft static from Thomas's communicator. He pulled it out, checking the signal. Lyra watched his face tighten. What is it? A transmission, he said. Encrypted. Old Heliari code. Someone is out there, sending a signal only a royal heir could unlock. Her heart jumped. Someone like me? Maybe. Or someone who believes you're real. Thomas showed her the data. The code glowed in the same blue hue as her mark. It pulsed like a heartbeat. It's calling for activation, he said. But only you can respond. She reached out and placed her hand on the communicator. The mark on her back glowed again, brighter than before. The screen responded instantly. A new message formed. Air confirmed. Tracking initiated. Await contact. Thomas stared. They found us. No, Lyra said quietly. I found them. He looked at her. What do you mean? She stood now, taller than before. This isn't just about running anymore. If there are others, if someone still remembers who I am, then I have to find them. The syndicate erased my people, but maybe not all of them. Thomas studied her. Then we prepare. For what? He smiled. For the part where you stop, hiding. Lyra turned back to the cliff edge. The sun was rising higher, and for once the world didn't feel so cold. She wasn't just a girl from the trash anymore. She was the last light of a lost world, and she wasn't alone. Not anymore. The sun rose higher, casting golden light over the icy cliffs. The world below shimmered like glass, but Thomas didn't look at the view. His eyes were on Lyra, no longer trembling, no longer hiding. She stood with her back straight, the wind lifting her silver hair as her glowing mark pulsed quietly beneath her collar. Something inside her had changed. For the first time since he met her, she looked like she believed she had a future. We can't stay here, Thomas said, packing supplies into a worn bag. Once the signal was activated, others might come, not just friends. The syndicate may have traced it. Lyra nodded, already helping. Where do we go? There's an old launch bay beneath the West Canyon, he explained. If it still works, we can find transport, maybe reach one of the free worlds. As they moved together through the forest, Lyra noticed something odd. Thomas didn't treat her like a queen or a weapon or a burden. He treated her like a person, like she mattered, not because of what she was, but because of who she was. It warmed her more than any fire. They reached the launch bay by dusk. It was buried under rocks and vines, long forgotten. Thomas pried open the old blast doors using a mechanical arm tool, and dust burst into the air. Inside were rusted machines, fuel drums, and one half-functional ship covered in vines and frost. Thomas ran diagnostics. The engine's weak, but it might fly, enough to get us out of orbit. As he worked, Lyra wandered into a side room. There, covered in dust, was a wall of names, etched in ancient Heliari script. Her hand hovered above it, fingers trembling. She touched a symbol. The wall responded, lighting up in soft blue light. A voice played, a recording from a woman who spoke in a language only Lyra could understand. If you are hearing this, you are not forgotten. The last of us waits for the return of the bloodline. Come home. Lyra stepped back, her eyes wide. She wasn't alone. A part of her people had survived. Thomas, she shouted. He ran in, weapon raised, but lowered it when he saw the glowing wall. They're alive, she said. Or at least, they were. He looked at the message. Then we find them. She smiled, but before either could speak again, a rumble echoed from above. A red light on Thomas's scanner blinked fast. Syndicate dropships, he said. Coming fast, they found us. Lyra moved without hesitation. We launch now. They jumped into the ship. Thomas fired the engines. Metal groaned. Sparks flew. The thrusters lit, weak but alive. The cave shook as the syndicate ships arrived above. Lasers cracked into the ground. They're trying to bury us in, Thomas said, gripping the controls. Lyra closed her eyes, focusing. Something inside her responded to the danger. Her mark pulsed again and the ship's control panel flashed. Royal code recognized. Systems unlocked. The engines roared louder. Thomas stared. You're flying it. I don't know how. You don't have to, it knows you. The ship lifted off, shaking the rocks around them. As the ceiling collapsed, they shot through the narrow opening and into the sky, fire trailing behind them. Syndicate drones chased them. Thomas weaved between clouds and storms, but they were gaining. Suddenly, Lyra reached for the central console. Her hand glowed and a shield burst out from the hull, pushing back the attackers. How did you do that? Tomas asked. I didn't. The ship did. It remembers my blood. The stars opened before them. They broke orbit. The drones fell behind. The Syndicate ship stopped at the planet's edge, unable to follow without permission. They were free. For now. In the silence of space, Lyra sat back and exhaled. Her hands were shaking again, not from fear, but from the weight of survival. Tomas looked over. You did it. She shook her head. We did it. He smiled. Where to now, Your Highness? She looked at him with a soft laugh. Don't call me that. What should I call you then? She paused. Just Lyra. He nodded. All right, Lyra. We'll find the others. Help them. Rebuild what they lost. She looked out the window. Stars filled her eyes. And what about you? He leaned back in the pilot seat. I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me. For the first time in her life, Lyra smiled without pain in her chest. Not a forced smile, not a frightened one, but a smile born from something real. Family. And even in the endless dark of space, that light would never fade again.